All right. Hello to all of our listeners and viewers, and welcome to the first episode of On the Record, presented by Indie Kids Winning. On the Record offers a space for anyone in the education sector of Indianapolis to share their unique experiences and spark the conversation that I believe will lead to necessary changes within the Indianapolis education system. I'm Xavier Shakes, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Darius Lewis. Darius will be graduating in May from the Indianapolis University of Indiana with his BS in Secondary English Education and BA in English Studies. He has been selected as a top 100 student for the 2024-2025 school year. He has been selected to speak at the School of Education graduation ceremony. He is also the host of Darius College Steps to Success, a show dedicated to fighting against the misconceptions about college and giving insight and motivation to aspiring high schoolers and anyone seeking a college degree. This man does it all and still finds the time to be a good person and a great friend. I could go on and on, but let's get down to business. As I said, Darius will be graduating this year. The last thing standing between him and graduating is his student teaching experience. This is Darius' first time managing a classroom, so who would be better than him to give us a fresh insight into the world of student teaching as well as the world of education. Before we start, I'll give you the chance to reintroduce yourself, Darius, and talk about anything that I haven't covered.
Yeah, so, basically got it all down pretty much. I'm Darius Lewis, graduating in May of 2025, so this year, so next month. I'm actually going to grad school to go get my master's degree in higher education student affairs. So right after I graduate, I have an internship in the summer, and then I'll be going right back into more schooling for 2 years, balancing student teaching, being an RA, different scholars programs. Just my life is pretty busy right now, but I still find time to make, I have the time to still, for like fun and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just pretty much what about me.
Yeah. Like I said, this man does it all. But I did want to kind of dive into a specific topic today. So the topic of today is going to be all about student teaching. My first question for you is just a fun one. What has been your favorite experience student teaching thus far?
I think me being young has a good way to play into that because I'm able to relate to the students and their social media experiences. I'm only 10 years older than them. So I think my favorite experiences is just like kind of bonding with the students, kind of getting to know them, getting to just talk to them about life, because school is a small section in their life on their perspective, but getting to know them, they actually open up to me and I'm able to talk with them, joke around and stuff like that. So I think being able to have fun with the students has been my favorite experiences so far, because I have like at least 90 students. So some of them they give me headaches, the other ones they make it fun for me as well. But I always get like stuff from my students are like, can you come back next year and be like our 8th grade teacher? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But because it's just like, you all are good, but the general population, I don't know. We're not going to talk about that. But it's been fun. I think the most fun experience is just like bonding with the students.
Of course. Yeah, and I would imagine that has a really big influence on your ability to teach them and their ability to learn. I remember my high school experience was made really fun by the teachers that made the effort to connect with us and had the ability to connect with us. So that's awesome to hear, man. All right, moving on. What are some unique obstacles you or your friends had faced in student teaching?
I think trying to lesson plan for students of all learning ability. So ENL students, so for people that don't know, ENL, English is new language. Some other people might say ELL or ESL, different variations, but those are students that first language isn't English. So I'm trying to combat that, like trying to incorporate their learning levels as well as like other students, not just them, because I'm not solo or singling them out, but also there's different learning curves for every student. So lesson planning is really tough just for the general population of all my classes. I think the only class that it's not too tough for is like my honors class, and that just kind of makes sense. Everybody is in there is honors, but in general, like all my other 3 classes, trying to lesson plan to make it engaging for everyone and try my best to really sit down and figure out what works best for students, what doesn't work best for students, who needs different variations of different worksheets, because I have to sometimes create 2 or 3 different variations of worksheets for different levels of learners. So that can also take a little bit longer to do, but I think once you get in like the swing of lesson planning, I think it becomes a lot more easier. My mentor teacher, she likes lesson planning. Right now, I don't. So I think we're two opposites. You either love it or you hate it. I don't think
Yeah.
there's like an in between. And right now, I'm more like the kind of hate side, but I like teaching it type of thing. Because like sometimes when I am cooking up stuff, I'm like, man, I can't actually wait to teach this. But then when you get in the classroom, it goes not according to plan just because you're trying to adjust and think on the fly about should I give more time. You all like lesson planning is more of like a rough draft of
Yeah.
what you're gonna do. You always have to make adjustments for each class. I think last week I made adjustments on the do now. I gave my first class like 5 minutes to do it. My second class needed like 15 minutes to do the first part. It just you kind of have to make those adjustments with the lesson plan. So I think lesson planning for all learners is probably the most difficult thing.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this concept of in the field of mental health counseling, we are always told to kind of meet our clients where they're at. So that idea of you having to kind of adjust on the fly reminds me of, hey, a session in mental health counseling may not go exactly as planned. A day in class may not go exactly as planned. So there is that aspect of having to, adjust on the fly, remembering that, you have this plan that's more like a scaffold that you can move through with your clients or your students. So that's an awesome, some awesome insight. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. What were your expectations for your student teaching experience and how accurate were they?
Expectations we had. So for student teaching, you have to be there like every day throughout the day and kind of like lesson plan. We had expectations for where we had like a rubric where they kind of check in on us midterm and final exam period. So in about actually this month there's like an interview asking us like about our work, about our teaching. So during this time we're supposed to collect different samples of work. So exemplary, good, and then bad. So, and then we explain the different scenarios for each one of them and how we went about like lesson planning them and what we could have done better. So I don't know about this for like other schools, but for my school, I think it's April 20, somewhere late April. It's like an interview you do with like the faculty explaining like your lesson planning, video analysis that we submitted last week and all this other stuff. So there is a general like lesson plan or general outline of what we kind of need to do for it. But I think in the midst of having the outline, it's not something that I look back at it during like my midterm because I thought I was doing like okay, but then I wasn't following like what I need to be doing. But because it's student teaching, so I never really like, oh, let me look back at this because like student teaching is a lot by itself. So
Yeah.
trying to match how closely I was to it, I wasn't really looking at it every day or looking every week as I should have been because I was so caught up on teaching, lesson planning, and like all this other stuff. So I think it's one of those things where they do have it outlined. Some of the wording could be changed a bit on them, and some of the standards could be shifted a little bit because we kind of are in 2025. So some things won't kind of implement to like everybody, but it's more of a general type of thing, which I do. It's okay in my opinion, but some of the things should be changed catered on like current day. I can't remember any specific examples right now, but there was one where like giving, I guess, assessments for it, but I guess like formal assessments. I can always use like they're called formative assessments, which are the smaller percentage of the students' grades, and then they have a summative assessment, which are like the tests and exams. I've never given one, like I've never made one from scratch because we have something called a pacing guide. So I think one of the things was like has Darius given like a formal or informal like assessments, and I informal yes kind of check up things, but formal no, just because there's a pacing guide that we strictly have to follow and that they give us when should we give out the test and like what time we should give it for the students. But yeah, there is a pretty general outline, but it's kind of a lot to juggle and make sure you're on top of stuff while like you're teaching. But it's just something that just you kind of get better as the semester closes out, so you know what you're doing right and then what you're doing wrong.
Gotcha. So it sounds like there's a lot of responsibilities just within student teaching, and there's some nuance to that responsibility. So did it kind of really like blow your expectations out of the water? Did you feel like you were prepared for it, or kind of in the middle of that?
I think at first, not really. I was kind of spiraling because all the stuff that I was given, and I was given a binder my mentor teacher gave me, and it had like different stuff in there that I need to keep track of, as well as just like student like planning and stuff. So I don't think I was prepared. I was trying to mentally prepare for what to come, but it was just really tough to try to mentally prepare for it, and I hadn't been into it yet. And so I was trying my best. Like, I know my days are gonna be long. I know I'm gonna have to spend X amount of hours on this X Y Z ABC, all this other stuff, but I still wasn't prepared for it. And a lot of the faculty is like, yeah, when you get into that last semester, like, yeah, y'all won't have time for anything. You're not supposed to have technically like another job and like all this other stuff, because that is supposed to be your sole dedication for the last like 5-6 months of your career. So
Yeah. So you and I have had a conversation before in the past about prioritization, and we've also had conversations about how you're going to adjust to these expectations that are kind of being placed on you and these responsibilities. I know that you mentioned that you would like to get to your classroom as early as possible, and that you're going to be putting more time into things like lesson planning. Talk to me a little bit more about adjusting. You've been able to adjust as far as responsibilities go, but when you get back home and you were, exhausted, how do you take care of yourself?
okay, yeah, I think having to adjust, like I said, I've had to take it up a notch just because I need to finish off the semester strong. So kind of just understanding like the sacrifices I have to make. That's getting to the school early as possible to like 8 every day and staying after if I need to, or just coming right back and lock it in on what I need to be doing. As far as like taking care of myself, I haven't like that much this semester, only because I think I'm gonna take care of myself like after I cross that finish line. As far as like I took care of myself last semester or last week or this past week. I'm on spring break, just kind of chilling back, going on road trips, places, and kind of getting out a little bit more. But maybe other people take care of themselves, but I haven't, just because I've been trying to like, I can't like stray now. This is kind of the last, like, I got 1 month left, a month and a half left to just finish that and cross that line.
Well, let me flip it a little bit, because it sounds like you do take care of yourself. It's more like you do it when you have the time to, right? You have a little bit more endurance to kind of push through, day to day, week to week. But when you do have a break to start taking care of yourself, like you said, you do your road trips, you kind of sit back, relax, and things like that. And I say that to say that I think self-care can look different for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just for our viewers and listeners, I just want them to take some time to think about maybe what their self-care looks like and where they can prioritize time for themselves. Just to, strike a balance. It doesn't have to be day to day. It doesn't have to be week to week. But as long as you have some time to sit back, relax, and maybe even just do the things that matter for you and your mental health. Okay. You are a part of a cohort of students stepping into the world of student teaching. Talk to me about the discourse around student teaching. How do you all's experience differ, and how are they the same?
Yeah, so I have 3 friends that we generally talk about here and there about student teaching. And so we always talk about, like, I have a friend down the hall, and we always talk about like our issues, and we're like, hey, do you have this student? Do you have this student? And I'd be like, I don't have this one, but I do got that one. He giving you troubles too. So I definitely, it's real. I'm glad I have somebody at the school that I can talk to just about like similarities and differences about our student teaching roles. And so there's always going to be students that want to learn, students that don't want to learn. My kids asked me one day, one of my students asked me, and he was like, am I bad? Like, am I a bad student? I'm like, I don't like using the word bad, because no one is like a bad student. You all have potential. You're in 7th grade. I'm like, I try to tell them, they've asked me that question quite a few times. I'm like, none of you are a bad student, because I'm not trying to put that like mindset on you. And even if you're just kind of just curious asking, or for fun, just in general, I don't know what you're thinking later. You might be thinking about, man, I'm a bad student. Did he really need that? Or something like that. I don't say it, but I'm like, you have the potential. You get off track when you don't need to be and all this other stuff. But as a bad student, no one's, and some people might characterize, some people might say my take is wrong. Some people might just be like, students are bad. There are students that I can't control, and they're bad. They're not. But you kind of have to find a way to rope them in, try to get a way for them to learn and stuff like that. I had a student, my first like few weeks, I was like observing. She would always be talking in the back of the class, and I was like, man, when I get in charge, I'm like, man, how am I gonna control this? Because she was getting on my mentor teachers like nerves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when I got in control, I had like problems with her, of course. But as I started roping her in more and more, kind of catering to not like her specifically, but meeting her where she's at, which is a big thing. She started behaving a lot better. And
Yeah.
I think a time where I was gone, I think I took a half day and I don't know what happened, but she ended like in the office or something. I don't remember what happened. I was like, the one day I wasn't here, I don't know what happened in between that because I'm thinking like she's been at least decent, this whole time, and a lot. She's come from so far. That's how I see it. But as far as like me and my friends, we kind of talk about how we have similarities and differences. Like students, some students you just can't. They just won't learn. They just won't do it. There's probably that like universally, like in every class, for students that don't want to learn. And so what are the best ways that you can try to do that? But we've tried to talk about ways like problem solving methods to kind of help students, but like there's like 30 and there's like one of us. So it's kind of really hard. So we got to talk about test scores recently. We got our test scores back from iLearn. Talk about the similarities and differences between those who's above average. We test on above and average is kind of like in the same category, and then you have below average. So we kind of talk about the test scores versus English and math. English at my school was like 45% at or above, but math was like 20%, and I was like. Honestly, I thought people like math more than English, but I guess maybe not. Maybe people just do better in, English, and that's what the scores were showing. So we talk about those scores, and we talk about what can we do better because we only have a month and a half left, and we talk about like our different PLC meetings, how our days go. But yeah, just kind of like that. I don't think it's ever been like too different or it's something out of the ordinary. Like I can't remember a specific example of a story, but we're just like when a story may sound outlandish to somebody not in education, we're just like we just nod. We're like, yep, I can see it. That definitely happened, and this happened, and yeah. So I think the people in education, we are different from the people outside of education because outside of education, you're like, they did what, and he did what, and she did, and then we're just like, yeah. I mean, it's the normal. Like this is just kind of how it is. So I think there's more a bundle of similarities rather than differences.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always nice to have a community that you can kind of relate to through the ups and downs. So that's awesome. I did kind of want to go back around to something you said earlier. It sounds like to me that you really are prioritizing fostering the student-teacher relationship. So let's see, going back to the student that you said she was really talkative with you, instead of going the route of figuring out how to control her behavior, you met her where she was at, fostered that this human connection of the student-teacher relationship. How have you seen that student-teacher relationship as you're fostering it? Does it correlate with the positive experience of their education? Like, are they seeming to learn more? Are they more interested in learning from you? How has your prioritization of relationship influenced your students' ability to learn?
I think it depends because I think it's been a positive thing, but the correlation with like her doing work is not the same as like the relationship way. So it's kind of like a fine line that I'm still trying to weave around because I'm still like new to this. Like I can say that she does do more work than she used to do, even if it is just a little bit more at times or a lot more at times. But it kind of depends on that because I'm always like circulating the classroom, making sure that they're on task. And I think them having the conversations, like me having the conversations with her, I think she takes it a little bit more seriously, or it kind of just depends on the day. But I think I've had more positive like responses than like negative responses on, hey, this is due, you need to get this in, I'm not taking this after, and all this other stuff. This goes like back to the boys and like all my classes. I think all the young males, they gravitate towards me, right? Especially in my last class, I always come around, I'd be putting a hand on their shoulder, I'd be like, hey, you got to get to it, and they'd be looking over like this. I mean, yeah, and that I think because I'm like I'm like I think I'm funny, but I try to like be like let loose a little bit and try to make sure that they are on their work, and I'm like, hey, I don't mind you talking, but like less talking, more working, and I'm trying to fostering that relationship rather than just be like, all right, you need to be working, right? like all that time. I get that. Like, you're in 7th grade, you're gonna get off task. Like, I used to get off task too. You in 7th grade, you at school. The only time you talk to your friends. I mean, most people have phones and stuff like that, but the only time you really see them in person is at school. So I get like why students want to get off task and kind of want to work. So I think building that relationship with them helps, because it's just like when they know I'm serious, even like sometimes when they don't think I'm serious, it kind of scares them a little bit, because I'm not the type to just get real angry at them and stuff like that. But I think also it has to go back with, I think if I would have set expectations at the beginning, like of the school year, like if I was like the brand new teacher with them, I think fostering that a little bit better, it would have been a little bit more positive, because I'm going off like my mentor teacher's expectations still a little bit. I still have like my set of own, but the students, like sometimes I hand them work and they talk to my teacher like, do we have to do this? I'm standing right here. I'm like, I'm the teacher. Like, I'm right here. My friend down the hall has said the same thing. They hand them something, he hands them something, and they go right to his mentor teacher, and they're like, do we have to do this? And she's like, he gave it to you, didn't he? And I'm helping him. Like, I think that kind of sense of thing, which is kind of always funny, because they're always trying to figure out like who to go to and that kind of sense. But yeah, I think the relationships have helped me be a little bit more laxed, as well as like with like correlation of work. It kind of depends on the day. It varies.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, you touched on a little bit of you talked about your classroom teacher relationship. Now I want to shift gears and focus on your relationship with your mentors. So how has your growth been supported, whether it's from your mentors, staff in general, and in what areas have you seen personal growth?
I think been supported with, like, I guess my coach checks on me, I think, more weekly now, and then my mentor teacher not as much, just because she has a lot. She has a lot going on most of the time. 'Cause I think she's like lead teacher, and I think when I was at the beginning, she was out at least once a week, other days, and then kind of, I think it's a bunch. So she tries every now and then to give me little tips, and I kind of have to like ask for it. More recently, it's been more in the moment. It used to be more over like email or text messages about things, but more recently, like before spring break, has been more of a kind of in the moment type of thing, which has helped me with like classroom management. I think that's one thing I struggled with at the beginning. I think there's one thing I'm like still kind of struggling with, but not as bad as it was. Because at first, when my mentor teacher was like, "Yeah, I'm be out today," I'm like, "Bro, like you telling me I gotta handle 30 kids by myself each class?" But now when she's like, "I'm gonna be out today," I'm like, "Okay." I'm confident that I'm able to handle the class, get the kids to do what they need to be doing and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely been a shift where they've given me that confidence, because when I first started, she would be like stepped out and just try to give me that full, even though it got crazy at times for sure, but she was just trying to get me in the classroom by myself, to be like, all right, there's no help. This is just, you're by yourself and you got to kind of control everything at the beginning. So I can definitely say that helped as well. So, but classroom management, I think, is one of those areas where I've always grown at over the course of the time. So just managing the kids, like, hey, don't ask me no question while I'm up here teaching. You cannot go to the bathroom. You cannot get water. And I'm in the middle of teaching. Can I get some water? I'm literally in the middle of a lesson. No. The amount of time I'm like, while I'm up here, don't ask me to go. I'm like, I tell them there's always time at the end to go get water, to go get bathroom, or in our do now when we first get in or something like that. Run, yeah, you can run to the bathroom, yeah, before we get started with our lesson. But in that like 30, 45-minute block where I'm teaching, no, you're supposed to be paying attention. So that classroom management has grown over time, and as well as like, I think my mentor teacher and then the E&L teacher who's also in there with me as in my first and second classes has kind of helped me grow my like one-on-one with students, because there are two other adults that are supporting me in the classroom at the time. So they always say I'm phenomenal at doing like one-on-one interactions, just one-on-one with students, trying to get them to learn and kind of focusing. The students seem like they feel valued by me, because I'm taking time to come to each one of the students. So that has really helped me. Even when I'm not supported in the other two classes. Well, she still is my mentor teacher. She's on the other two classes, but I'm more in controlling over those two classes. I still have the other classes with the E&L teacher, and my mentor teacher has helped me grow the one-on-one classes for like all my classes all together. So they've told me that I always do good and one.
Right. So we aren't too far removed from the students you were teaching as far as like, you said you're about 10 years older than them, but there's a lot of cultural aspects that we kind of, overlap, kind of share that we're able to relate to them on. Are there any unique strengths that you see in your students that give you hope for the future? That
Unique strengths. I see in my class, I see people that are just like creative, like just a bunch of creativity, and that some like very, I think, small population of my students have it like figured out where they want to go, but a big part of my students don't know, and that's fine. I tell them, like, you're in 7th grade, you're 12, you're not thinking about what college you're gonna go to and what things you're gonna do. And so we had an activity, and it was our due now paper, and it was like, how old are you gonna be in 10 years? What would you like to do for work? Just trying to get them to at least start up thinking about what they want to do. I posted all of their stuff on the back wall just so they can see how they match up against their peers. And when they came into the classroom that day, they were looking at all the different things that people said. Someone said they wanted to be a travel nurse. Another person said they wanted to be like an aerospace engineer. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, just like all types of stuff. A painter, just going to work. A soccer player. Like, there's just a bunch of creativity. There's a bunch of uniqueness in the room, and that's showing me that everyone has like their different path that they want to go to. And so I see a lot of hope for the future. Just because students aren't succeeding in the classroom doesn't mean they won't succeed in the future. I think I've kind of always have known that, especially now a lot of people are trying out a lot of different things with like social media, just a bunch with Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, people being streamers. I see like there's just a whole bunch of like creativity, especially nowadays. I know there's some students that are like, yep, I want to go to college and this. They have their stuff planned out, but bigger population of my students, I'm gonna just say all my population of students, because what they want to do now may not what they want to do when they graduate high school.
Right.
As far as I see a lot of like hope in the future, because there's a lot of different like categories my students can fit in for work. They can do. I told them, y'all can be anything y'all want to be. Like, don't let anybody tell you that you can't be like what you want to be and all this other stuff. And so if you want to be a soccer player, like I have this student, he speaks like 4 different languages and he wants to be a soccer player, and he was having a conversation with this student, and I guess it was kind of like a jab, like basically you're not gonna be a soccer player or whatever. And I'm just like, you don't know that. You're only 11, 12. Like, you don't know that. But people set out what they want to be, and they put their whole mind and they put their whole heart into it. It can be anything that you want to be. And so in that classroom, in my 4 different classrooms that I teach, I see a lot of hope for the future. Just because everyone's not getting A's or B's or C average in the classroom doesn't mean that they're not going to contribute to something good in the future.
Yes, sir. And I was going to ask you another question, but you kind of answered it. I just wanted to know, like, okay, you're a student teacher. You spend 8 hours a day. It sounds like you're doing a great job of this already. But talk to me a little bit more about how you manage to balance all your responsibilities as a teacher, manage the classroom, and still foster and cultivate the dreams of your students. It sounds like you've got a wide range of students as far as creativity goes, what avenues they want to go down. How do you still prioritize cultivating the dreams of students?
I think just by those one-on-one conversations, and just kind of just telling them that, I mean, sometimes recently I took 2 students on a walk just around the hallways just as class was ending, and they were just talking to me about that. I was like, you can tell me stuff. I mean, you don't have to, but I guess they were just like, they just told me one going back to like private school after this year, I guess, because she was in it for a while, and then another one ready for 8th grade. She has some stuff going on too, but just kind of making it seem like, and I do care about you and your well-being, and that, are you okay, and stuff like that. Like, it's just because like numbers and the data don't show the truth of when we actually do like I learn, when we do these different tests that we have to do. But I'm trying to make sure in my classroom that, hey, I care about you. I'm trying to make sure that you're good. I have this student, his name, not his name, but he speaks French. He came from, I think, Haiti. And I can tell I'll tell you, he can really appreciate me when I sit down with him one-on-one and kind of go over the worksheet, because he's trying to like still learn English in that time. But I can tell like he appreciates the words and the guidance that I give him. I'd be like, when he surprised me and writes something down for one of the questions and stuff like that, I'm like, dang, yeah. I was like, this is really good. And like he smiles and stuff like that. Just like that little stuff, just kind of supporting the students' growth all the way. If it's with school, if it's without school, I always hype my students up when I'm reading their stuff. I'm like, okay, like this is good. Like I didn't think of this. I think we were writing our letter. Working on letters last week, and we were working on the what is it called? The closing and signature part. And so I was like, make your own like part where you just kind of end your letter, sincerely, peace out, stuff like that. And a student, he put to be continued. And I was like, this is hard, bro. I was like, nobody has thought about this. And I was hyping them up like, bro, I didn't even think about that. Just because like it fits so well that's the letter, to be continued. We're going to talk another time. So just like the little stuff, and not acting like I'm above them and acting like I'm too good for them and I know everything just because I'm in college and I'm older than them and stuff like that. So kind of avoiding that, like, I'm right, you're wrong type of thing, and to be like actually actively supporting, showing emotions, laughter. Like, you're human too. They need to see that stuff as well. So just like stuff like that, when I read their papers or check on their work and stuff like that, they can actually they show, or they know that I really care, and I see that they really appreciate me, like helping them, even if it's just like a little bit here and there and stuff like that. And maybe they might not even say it, but I just know that I'm trying my best to make a difference in their life. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I mean, just kind of, I got one more question for you, but I want to to our listeners and viewers that may have been in the field of education for a very long time, I can see why it is so easy to become jaded. This is a field where burnout is common. It's almost to be expected. The reason why I wanted to talk to Darius today is because, like, the theme of this conversation has been creativity and fostering that. We have a fresh set of eyes, somebody that has been able to bring their experience into the classroom as well as their personality, and that trickles down to these students. There are definitely some changes that need to be made as far as the system goes, but to all my teachers out there that have been in the field for a very long time, remember what you came to the field for. Hold on to that and pass down that energy to your students. The kids are our future, and we got to make sure they're happy, we got to make sure that they know they're human. One more question for you, Darius. You've been doing the student teaching thing for about a semester now. Semester, 2 semesters?
Semester.
Gotcha.
Just this semester. The other semesters were just kind of like little droplets of going into the classroom, observing, maybe teaching a lesson or two. But yeah, this is my semester where full student teaching.
Gotcha. Okay. Knowing that you have the experience that you do underneath your belt, what advice would you give any student preparing to move into the student teaching position?
That you can try to prepare for it, but you can't. It's just one of those things that you kind of have to set aside, like what I was told, kind of set aside other stuff that you may be doing and kind of drop it, and if you can. Fortunately, I couldn't because I live on campus. I still gotta do scholar stuff. They pay for my house, all this other stuff. So I'm kind of busy with like student teaching and kind of other stuff as well. But if you can kind of lay back on the other stuff that you're in, I would say that is advised to do so, just to give you more time for yourself on like weekends, to give you more time to breathe, because it's tough, like going into school every day, teaching, lesson planning, classroom management. Different kids have different things with them. Like there's just a whole it's like kind of like an overflow of information, because you're going into a new school and you're trying to make sure that you are supporting these students as you would support, like, let's say, I mean, if you have your own kids one day, or if you don't, or anybody else like that's close by you. So as far as for like student teaching is as such, just I would say prioritize the students, and if like you have your mentor teacher in there, like thankfully I have mine, or if you have an ENL teacher with them, they always say use us, because having three or even two adults, that's rare. Like us having three adults in two of my classes, that's extremely rare. That is never for me. If I end up deciding to teach, like that'll never happen again. So I'm trying my best. Like my priority is trying to make sure that these students like learn, and that to show them I care about them, that I do want them to advance, because they're like, yeah, it's nice having like 2-3 teachers. Like it's not always gonna be like that. And so luckily I'm grateful that I am able to have two and then sometimes three adults in the classroom to kind of help with that. And some people might come in and see that it may be labeled as chaotic, but it's a good chaotic, because because I was told like just because it's silent doesn't mean they're learning. Yeah. So that's the vice versa. Just because they're loud doesn't mean they're not learning. There's times where I circulate the classroom and they're talking about on topic stuff. There's times, granted, they're kids where they're off topic. That's just how it's gonna be. But I would say if you have a mentor teacher, you have an ENL teacher in the classroom with you to really take advantage of them, or if you have another adult in the classroom that's helping you, just try to prioritize making these students like feel great, feel good about themselves, because I think that's the most important thing about them, because mental health is important. I think going back to like your field, mental health counseling, mental health is important. And a lot of kids have a lot of issues, a lot of baggage with them. They're okay when they come to school. The only time they might eat is at school. The only time they again probably get to see their friends is at school. We have a social worker. We have technically, I think, two social workers. One is actually interning there right now. I met her. She's interning there, and some of my students go to her room and like, can I go here? I'm like, what for? Like, I got to know what for first before I just send you, because there's a bunch of students that go to her probably at one time and section it off and stuff. But yeah, my goal is to, while I'm in this classroom and there's like two other adults with me, like to make learning fun, and tell, it's not going to tell the full story, like the data points, how like it'll leave out a lot of stuff that kids come to school. Like sometimes they don't have clothes, sometimes they only eat at school, sometimes that they're moving house to house, they may have a dad or a mom or two dad, just a bunch of different things. The data points don't tell the full story, and I think that's what we're missing right now. And so I would say prioritize the students, take advantage. If your mentor teacher, that's not going to be for everyone, but if your mentor teacher is willing to stick around, stay in, take it, use them, and make sure that you're able to foster that like inclusive learning.
Yes, sir. I love it, man. Well, thank you, Mr. Lewis, for your time. That wraps up our podcast for today. To our listeners and viewers, I would love for you all to be able to comment on your experiences, whether it's student teaching, whether you've been in the field for a long time. Let's just get the conversation started. As today's theme has been, it's been creativity, but even before that, it's been about the human connection. Let's share our stories, let's share our experiences so we can spark the change that's necessary to create a system that works for everybody. This has been Xavier Shakes, and thank you all for listening.